Hello there. Um, if you can hear me over the lovely afternoon breeze here, what I'm going to make right now is a infused vinegar. I really love infused vinegars. I've got more and more into them. And they have a really fine history of use. You might have heard of fire cider. There was a big court battle about it a couple of years ago because a company tried to trademark it, and it's something that's been used by herbalists for a long time. Rosemary Gladstar made it famous, and they lost, and it's still you can still use it as a term for everybody's use, which is good news. Fire cider is a good winter cider, so I typically make this in the autumn, and it contains lots of hot, fiery, spicy things, as the name implies. Chili peppers, horseradish, garlic, ginger. I often put a bit of echinacea and elderberry in there. And it gives you a big old whack every morning when you take that to support your immune system and keep you warm and healthy in the wintertime. The other famous cider vinegar, or the other famous infused vinegar, is Four Thieves. And there's all kinds of different mythology and tales about the Four Thieves vinegar, but the idea was, in a nutshell, that back during the plague, somewhere between the 14th and 17th centuries, a group of thieves were going in and stealing from people who had the plague. And when they were caught, the authorities said, well, how have you done this? How did you not get the plague? Because it's very infectious. And in return for not being punished for their crimes, they gave the recipe for the Four Thieves vinegar. And Four Thieves vinegar is loads and loads of different recipes going all the way back. Some of them really knock your socks off. I mean, they've got things like camphor in that I wouldn't want to take internally. And in fact, a lot of the things say that they applied it to their bodies. And actually it contained things like wormwood and tansy, as I say, camphor, all things that deter insects. So interestingly, what they may have been doing, assuming there's any truth in it at all, is kind of coating themselves in insect repellent. And of course, bubonic plague was spread by fleas. So that might be the kind of explanation for that. Nowadays, you'll see on Etsy stuff lots of different Four Thieves vinegars, generally kind of immune boosting type thing. But what I'm going to make today is a spring tonic. It's spring. My garden is full of plants that I consider to be fabulous medicinals. Other people might call them weeds. And I've got some apple cider vinegar. And you can use any vinegar for this. I wouldn't use the white vinegar that you use for cleaning, because you're going to be taking this internally. But apple cider vinegar I really like, because particularly if you get this kind, which unfortunately I shook it before I brought it out here, just force of habit. But when it was settled, you'd see it had a kind of thick gloopiness at the bottom, and that's the mother, that's the fermenting bit of the cider vinegar. So apple cider vinegar is high in good bacteria and yeasts and things, which is really good for your digestion, of course, like taking a probiotic when you drink or take a fermented food. It's also not just good for your digestion, it really helps to clear phlegm and muckiness in the throat. It's good for your joints. A lot of people say that it helps with weight loss. I can't speak to that, but people say it does. How I take my apple cider vinegar is first thing in the morning, a teaspoon in a cup of hot water, and just drink it down. Sounds gross. You'll be surprised. When I first started taking it, I was just like, whoa. And then over time, I really crave it now. If I don't have it, I notice I haven't had it. So for a while, I used just plain cider vinegar, and then thought, this could be a tincture effectively. So all you do is just the same as making a tincture, basically. You're going to put your liquid, if you want to be posh about it, it's your menstruum, with your mark, which is your solid things. I'll try and hold them up. Whiz it up in a blender, and of course, if you don't have a blender, just chop it up with a knife, or even kind of pound it, put it in between a tea towel, and then run a rolling pin or an empty bottle over it to crush it up. It's just about crushing up the cells of the walls of the cells of the herbs, so that they give up what they've got in them. And this is just a random selection. I've been around the garden this afternoon. If I had nettle, I would put nettle in here. I do not have nettle in the garden right now. I've got like a couple of baby plants. I'm astonishingly, as an English person, trying to grow nettles rather than just going and picking them. But it's a bit dry here for them. So I did gather a lot last autumn, and I made an apple cider vinegar just infused with nettles. So I'll probably blend some of that in with this. That's the one I'm taking at the moment. And I've got one with Ella Campaign as well, which I love. So gorgeous, lovely, fabulous calendula, golden, sunshiny, lymphatic. Because what I'm aiming for with this is something that really gives you a spring boost, gets you fit for summer. So a nice sort of lymphatic to get your lymphatic system going. Fabulous herb for the skin. It's anti-inflammatory. It's somewhat antimicrobial. So in it goes. Next up, and again, I'm going to add more of these. I'm doing this in a bit of a hurry because I just wanted to do it now while it's still got light. So I'll go and pick some more of these tomorrow. Dandelion leaves, I mean, they're tiddly. Look. Dandelion is a mild diuretic, so it helps stop water retention. Dandelion in general as well is also supportive of the liver. We tend to think of the leaf for the diuretic aspect, the root for the liver, but actually I think the whole plant has some action in both areas. Great spring tonic, makes a lovely light salad vegetable. It's quite bitter, but that's a good thing. In the France, the common name for this is pissenlit, and in the north of England, the common name is the English translation, which is pea in the bed. We always sound so much less romantic in England than France, because it will make you pee. I'm not putting a vast amount in, and I will add more, but it's not going to like uncontrollable amounts, but it's just a mild, gentle diuretic. And interestingly, high in potassium. A lot of diuretics can reduce potassium in the body, so clinically people are given potassium-sparing diuretics. Dandelion leaf is a naturally occurring potassium-sparing diuretic because it promotes urination, but it's full of potassium. Okay, so that goes in. Next up, it's still fairly small, but it's just coming into life, my yarrow. I just love yarrow. It's really really kind of health-giving herb. It's a really good antimicrobial, it's a really good anti-inflammatory. So I'm just tossing in a little bit of yarrow flowers, not flowers, leaves, like Achilleum millefolium. Gorgeous. Next up, so much lemon balm in the garden at the moment. It's an anti-inflammatory, it gives you a mood lift, so that's a nice thing to take first thing in the morning. And so I'm going to put that in there too. Really good antiviral. Did I just say that? So that is our lemon balm going in. And last but not least, and I'm going to take this inside before I put it in and chop it with some scissors. This is good old Gallium cleavers, Sticky Willy, the one that sticks to you, remember? You stick it to your clothes. Can't get it off because it's all Velcro-y. This, as you will know, is a really good lymphatic and a really good skin herb. So it really kind of promotes clear, healthy skin. So the reason I'm going to take it inside and chop it up is this is getting a little on the old side now. Can you see how fibrous these stalks are? They're really tough. So if I put that in here without chopping it and whiz it up, it's just going to wrap itself around the blades at the bottom there and be a complete pain to then try and untangle, and I'll be stuck there with scissors inside trying to do it. So a lot quicker I'll just take it like that and chop, 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 chop along with a pair of scissors or a knife. That can go in. And then I'm just gonna, so I've always got other bottles of apple cider vinegar around, but I brought this one out because it was to hand. What have I got there? Half a bottle, and it's a 32 fluid ounce bottle. Probably that will do it actually. I always, when I'm doing things like this, pour in most of my liquid, but leave a little bit back, so that then when I've tipped it out into the jar to macerate, I've got a little bit left to just swoosh around and get the last bits of the herbs out. And then I'll pour it all into a jar. Just a tiny dandelion leaf there, tiddly. I'll pour it into a jar and label it and put the date on it, and I'm going to let that macerate for 2 weeks, at which point I will strain it out, put it into a dark glass jar, dark glass bottle, and have it every morning in my in my apple cider drink. I'll probably dip into it before then. I quite often end up doing that, just taking a little bit out and then adding a bit more of whatever it is, a bit more vinegar. 2 things to know about working with vinegar. It is highly, highly acidic. So number 1 thing is when you put a lid onto the jar, be sure to use a plastic one, or if you've only got metal, use a piece of, grease-proof paper, we call it in the UK. Can't remember what you call it here, baking parchment maybe. Something as a barrier between the vinegar and the metal. Otherwise the metal will rust, which is what happens in the presence of vinegar, and you won't be able to get the lid off, which will be really annoying, and you might end up with rust in your preparation, which you don't want. Likewise, it's pretty rough on the teeth, and like fruit juice, so what you shouldn't do is take your apple cider vinegar and drink it, and then immediately brush your teeth. That's a bad idea because the enamel will be slightly weakened. Same with fruit juice. If you right after you've had something acidic, your teeth enamel is a little softer. So you could either brush your teeth beforehand, or leave it like half an hour before you brush your teeth. And you'll find some people, oops, I just kicked the tripod. You'll find some people take like a tablespoonful of apple cider vinegar in their hot water in the morning. I just don't think you need that much. For me, a teaspoon does it nicely. And the other thing you could do with this, and I might even do it with it, I might even show that on here as well, is make it into an oxymel. An oxymel is a combination of infused vinegar, usually again apple cider vinegar, the way I do it, and honey. Where we live here in Santa Cruz, there are a billion trees of every kind. I mean, everything from palm trees to redwoods to pines. And there's a lot of pollen in the springtime and frankly most of the year round. At the moment you can see great wafting drifts of yellow pollen floating down the road, and so everyone gets seasonal allergies. I have local beautiful honey that some friends gave me who live like a quarter of a mile away, so I might use some of that to make, I've been adding a little bit of that to my morning vinegar, and if you don't like the vinegary taste, it improves the taste as well. But as you might know, local honey is quite a good way of helping to deal with the effects of seasonal allergies. So yeah, vinegar's going to go in here, going to whiz it up, pour it into a jar, label, no metal anywhere near it, because I don't want it to oxidize. And then the same with the bottle that you store it in, make sure it's not a metal lid, make sure you use a plastic or lid or whatever. You could use cork if you have one. So yeah, that's it, apple cider vinegar.